Alright, I get it. We'll make one, damn it. Hey guys, welcome to my Fire Cape guide. Quick thing before we start, if you want to skip the intro or skip to certain parts, just go into the description. There's bookmarks down there for every point in this video. So if you don't want to listen to the intro or anything, just click on the bookmarks and it'll take you right to where you need to go. So this was a very highly requested video based on my last video, so we decided that we were going to go through and do the Fire Cape. Now I talk about this going into the inventory, but basically what I'm doing is that obviously because I'm super over leveled for the Fire Caves, what I did was I went in with a certain amount of stats. I basically downscaled my gear to gear that you would more than likely have at certain stats. So the stats that I downgraded to were 70 range, 40 defense, and 52 prayer. And I made my gear based off of that and tried to go through the fight caves as if that was the kind of gear I was using. So I hope you guys like this. There hasn't really been an updated Fire Caves or Fight Caves guide in a long time, so I thought it might be good to go ahead and do one for 2017. And also kind of helps to see it from another person's perspective. So if you guys did enjoy the video, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to see more of this kind of content or see more content from my channel, go ahead and subscribe. If you have feedback for me or want to flame me, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want a cool place to hang out, you can hop in the clan chat. I think we're having about 25-30 people hanging in there on a normal basis, and it's pretty active, pretty talkative. So if you want a fun place to hang, go there. And with that being said, let's jump into the video. So like I said in the intro, obviously my stats outscale basically the entire fight case, but what we're going to do is try to go in with the mindset of if I had a certain amount of skills. So the skills I'm going to say that you probably want to have before you do fight case, so this is your first time doing it: 70 ranged, 40 defense, about 52 prayer is probably where you want to be to start off with. So I'm going to basically scale my gear to be about that, and it's also kind of a welfare setup. So if you have those stats, you should be able to get Blessed D'Hide. You can get a full set of Blessed D'Hide for about 800k, and that's including the boots. Obviously the boots are probably the most expensive part, to where the cheapest boots are the ancient boots, which cost about 700k. Obviously if you don't want to spend 700k on your setup, then switch them out with snakeskin boots. It's a very marginal difference, but they're a very good difference nonetheless. So, talking about the shield, because it's probably your first time doing fight caves and probably the first fire cape you're going to get, you probably want a shield. If you are experienced with fight caves and you kind of know what you're doing a little bit and you're confident in your abilities to not get hit very often, then you can go with the Carol's Bow or use like a Book of Law or something for more offense. For your ammo slot, we're going to want to use broad bolts. These obviously require 55 Slayer. But if you don't have 55 Slayer, you can easily use Adamantite bolts, and they will actually give you the same amount of range strength. It's just broad bolts are about 25% of the price. For your cape, you're going to want to use Ava's Accumulator. That's obviously a quest reward from Animal Magnetism. For your necklace, you can use an Amulet of Power, which is not what I would recommend. That's probably the lowest you can go, and then up to like a Necklace of Anguish if you have it, but you probably don't. So we're using a Glory, which is about 25k, pretty bar standard in the middle. For your gloves, obviously if you have Barrow's gloves, use them. But I think if you have Barrow's gloves at this point, you don't really need a guide. So if you don't have Barrow's gloves, use a combat bracelet. For your ring, probably don't have an archer's ring, go ahead and use an explorer's ring. If you have the explorer's ring 1, it's obviously not the best, but it's going to give you +1 prayer bonus, and to be honest, that's really the only kind of good ring you're going to have. And obviously for your weapon, you're going to be using a rune crossbow. If you have an Armadale crossbow, then go ahead, be my guest, and use it, but I'm assuming that we're kind of poor and we don't have it because I don't even have one yet. Moving on to the inventory, you're going to want to have a Diamond Bolt E switch, and the reason for this is because the Majors and Jed have both very high range defense, and what the Diamond Bolt special will do when it procs is will actually reduce the damage or reduce the defense of whatever monster that you hit. So we're going to use Diamond Bolts as a switch for when we get to those. You're not using a blowpipe obviously if you're 70 range because you can't use it. So we're going to bring in Ancient Mace to use on the low level monsters. What this does is it's a special attack that costs 100%, and it will actually restore some of your prayer when it hits. So if prayer is kind of one of your scary things, one of the things you're kind of afraid of losing, you want to bring that along. It's a quest reward from Another Slice of Ham. So complete that quest and you'll get an Ancient Mace. You're going to bring 2 ranging potions. Obviously if you can't bring the Ancient Mace, I'd recommend bringing a third, especially if you're at 70 range, because you're going to want to start boosting your range once you hit the majors. Besides that, you're going to want to have 12 brews, 8 restores, and 4 prayer potions. You can obviously just bring 12 brews, 12 restores. That's fine. I bring prayer potions because a lot of times I just need prayer because I don't get hit very often, at least in the early stages. I only get hit towards the later end, and sometimes I really just only need prayer. So that's why I really bring the prayer potions instead of full super restores, especially because they're cheaper. Side note, the amount of bolts that you're going to want to have for your main bolts, so your broad bolts, or for your adamantite bolts, you're going to want about 500 or so, or about 1,000, 500 to 1,000. And for your diamond bolts, if you're going to be using them as soon as you start hitting the majors, you're going to want to bring about 300 of those. But that's really the gist of the setup. And so with all that being said, let's go ahead and run into the caves. And starting off, the first 2 waves, you're going to have 1 and 2 bats. They're level 22, and their special thing is that if they hit you, they will take away 1 prayer, even if it's a 0. And then they'll take away however much prayer that they actually hit you for. So if they hit you for a 2, they'll take away 2 prayer. So these are probably going to be like your number 1 priority. Whenever you see these spawn, you're going to want to kill these. And you're going to see this tactic that I use, especially when 2 of them start coming at me. You're going to attack and run away. With a crossbow, you can actually do this to where you can attack, run away, and they actually won't hit you. And it's more so kind of like a kiting thing that you want to do. The next monster we're going to encounter is a level 45. This guy's special build is that if you hit him with melee, he'll hit you kind of like a ring of recoil. It's the exact same thing, but it only happens with melee. So, what you're going to do is basically range them, and you can do the same kiting technique, especially if you're afraid of taking damage. And then what will happen is when he dies, he'll spawn 2 of these level 22s. They both have 10 HP. They're really simple, pretty easy to one-shot. These are the guys that you're going to be wanting to use your Ancient Mace spec on to get some of your prayer back. So keep that in mind when we start getting into the later waves. Alright, after the 22 or after the 45 spawn, this is when you're going to start having your level 90 spawn. And these are your rangers. This is probably going to be the first time you're going to want to start praying because these guys can hit really hard. They have 40 hit points. They're very easy to kill. You can use an Ancient Mace spec on these guys as well, but I'd highly recommend using it on the level 22s that spawn from the 45 because they have lower defense. So these guys, again, they're going to be a high priority in the later levels, and when we start getting into like the higher waves, I'll explain the priority list more so. But these guys, the main thing you want to know is that you're going to want to be praying range because they can hit pretty hard. Something else I want to point out is that if you notice, my priority pretty much goes to killing the level 22s first, the bats, when they spawn, because they are going to drain your prayer, and that can be an issue, especially at the lower levels. If you only got 52 prayer, you want to be prioritizing killing those 22s first and trying not to get hit by them as best you can. So I advise you to use that kiting technique I told you about, to where you attack them, run away, so you minimize the amount of times you get hit. You also notice there's a rock that I stand by. It's on the far eastern side of the fight caves. It's called Italy Rock. You probably know about this, but basically what you do is you use the larger melee creatures, such as the 45s and the 180s that we're about to get into. You're going to want to use this rock to kind of safe spot them, so that way you can minimize the amount of damage you're taking as well. Alright, on to the next monster. These are your level 180s, meleeers. Now, you should never really have to pray melee. There are some situations where you have to when you try to set up a safe spot, but this is where you're really going to start using Italy Rock on the far eastern side of the fight caves. If you watch, I'm going to stand here and wait for the 180 to come to me, and then I can trap him. If he's coming from the western side, then I can trap him on the western side of the rock. And you'll also see that if they spawn to the south of me, so if they spawn in the little corner that I'm standing in right now, or if they spawn further to the south, then I'll trap them on the south side of the rock and run to the north side of it. It's a little bit complicated, so I advise that you watch the video and see what I'm doing. But these guys you should never pray against. However, if you ever have to run through them, I advise you to pray melee if there are no majors out or anything, because they can hit like 25s and they can fucking hurt. So pretty much safe spot these guys as much as you can. They're a really easy thing to kill. They have pretty low defenses. Just make sure you're watching out for them. So obviously the priority is going to change a little bit now that we have this new monster into the mix. The 180 should actually be a very low priority target. The reason being is that you're going to be safe spotting them most of the time. So as long as you get them safe spotted, they should really be at like the bottom of your priority list. The 22s are still going to be at the top of your priority list because they're going to drain your prayer. And then your next priority on that list is going to be the level 90s. You're going to want to kill those rangers because you're going to still want to pray against them because they can hit really hard. So you're going to want to prioritize those, kill those off so you can stop praying and conserve your prayer. And then you're going to want to kill whatever you didn't safe spot. So if you have something safe spotted, then obviously save that for last because you're not going to get hit by it. Kill whatever's attacking you and then start focusing on whatever's left out there. Also, one other thing that you're going to see, the 45s, when they die, they'll spawn the 22s. Sometimes when the 45 dies, the level 22s will actually spawn one in front of you and one to the side of you. Simply just run back a little bit and line them up so that way you're not taking damage from both of them at the same time. Also, kill the first one, kill the one that's in front of you, the one that's directly attacking you, and as soon as that one dies, do exactly what you do with the bats and run back a little bit and attack, and you can actually prevent taking any damage from the second one. So, just a little tidbit of advice. Also, you see me do this a little bit during this section as well, as you'll see me run to the other side of Italy Rock, so run to the north side, and I'll run to that back corner, kind of towards where the cave entrance is. The reason I do that is because, especially when the 180 spawns on the south side of me and I have to run to the north side of this rock anyway, you can actually bring the ranger in closer to you if you start running towards the entrance. It'll actually bring them in really close. And this is really helpful because it's going to keep the 180 actually trapped on the south side of the rock, while you can just pray against the ranger and kill him. Also, if the ranger and the meleeer spawn in the same spot, so if they both spawn on the south side of you and the ranger is actually lined up behind the meleeer, with a crossbow, because of your attack range on rapid, you can actually attack the ranger without having to step into melee range. So you can just pray melee, or you can pray range, kill the ranger, and then take off prayer, and then kill the two melee, or the meleeer. So just a little tidbit to kind of help conserve your prayer. And now we're going to move on to 360s, everyone's favorite. So as soon as you hit wave 31, turn on Pray Mage and do not turn it off pretty much for the duration of the fight caves. The reason for that is that welcome to the 360s, probably the most annoying thing in this cave because of their range, the amount of damage they can do, and their high defenses. This is where you're going to want to start using your diamond bolts if you have like level 70 range like I recommended at the beginning, because their range defense is ridiculously high and it's going to take you an eternity to kill them if you're only using broad bolts. Obviously, because I have 90 range, I'm just using broad bolts, but I would highly recommend using your diamond bolts at this point to help take down their defenses, at least until you get one proc with them, and then switch over to your broad bolts if you're trying to conserve them for Jad. Now, the reason that these guys are so annoying is you need to have Pray Mage on. This is what's going to soak your prayer for pretty much the duration of the caves. They should always be like kind of a last priority though, and the simple reason for that is you're praying against them. This is where I'm really going to talk about priority, kill priority, because now you're starting to unlock every single monster in this. So your kill priority, your level 22 bats are still your priority. Basically, you want to minimize the amount of prayer that you're losing without actually getting any benefit out of it. Your next priority is to kill the rangers. The rangers are going to destroy you. They will do a ton of damage. You'll see this later in the caves. I got hit like a 20, a 12, and a 7. And I'm 90 defense, or like 95 defense and 94 defense. They can hurt. They want to be your second priority. Then you want to go after your level 45s. You want to be going after those guys, the big fat guys. And then you want to focus on your 180s. To be honest, the last two, the 45s and the 180s, it really comes down to whatever is not safe spotted. And this is kind of what I'm telling you guys. I'm telling you guys this as a priority list, but it's really dependent on whatever's attacking you. So I'm going to put this priority list on the screen right now, and then you want to look at what's attacking me right now. Do I have a 22 that's already killed? Do I have a 45 and a 180 that's safe spotted? Do I have a 90 that's safe spotted? Do I have a 360 that's safe spotted? You want to be looking at that and then saying, okay, what's attacking me? Kill in this order based on what's attacking me. The reason that you're trying to do this is fight case is all about minimizing your prayer usage, or trying to maximize basically how long you have to have your prayer on. You'll watch, especially when I start getting into like wave 50, there's a lot of movement that I'm doing. There's a lot of trapping that I'm doing, trying to minimize the amount of damage I'm taking and minimize the amount of prayers that I have to use. Now, there is a wave towards the end, actually, like I think it's wave 60, that I start taking a ton of damage because I just can't get anything safe spotted. And to be honest, that's going to happen. You're going to have some waves where your spawns are terrible, you can't really safe spot anything because you're in a bad position, and that just happens. That's the reason you have so much food on you, and that's why you have bruise. Sometimes you can just have a bad spawn and it's just going to suck, and sometimes the level 90s are going to do a ton of damage. At the end of the day, you need to remember your priority list, and you need to remember what's killing me, what's attacking me. This is what I need to kill. I'm also going to start getting into how to trap without Italy Rock. This is kind of a little bit more of an advanced thing, but it's very handy for trying to minimize your damage. When the 180s start to spawn, and they will start to spawn around wave 50, when that happens, you can actually use the level 90 and the level 360 to safe spot the 180, because they will actually stay still. The 90 and the 360, they will actually stay still while you can kill the 180, or while you can kill the 90. So basically what it involves is you have to kite the 180, which essentially means you have to run him around without getting hit, and then get him stuck on one of the other minions. And you'll see I do this with a 180 later on. I get stuck behind a 360, and sometimes this actually happens to where the level 180 will spawn far to the west side, and your 360 will spawn in the middle, and the 180 will actually start walking up to you if you're standing over by Italy Rock on the eastern side. the 180 will actually start walking up to you and it'll get caught on the 360. This is really nice because all you have to do is kill the 360, then run back to Italy Rock, and you've already got your trap taken care of. If you are not comfortable doing this, because this is a little bit more advanced if you've never done it before, then don't worry about it. Take the damage, go to Italy Rock, and only use Italy Rock to safe spot. Using minions to safe spot can be difficult, and it can actually cause you to die if you get into melee range of anything. Remember that the 360s are mages, but they can actually melee you as well, and they can do a ton of damage with their melee attack. So, just be aware of that. It really comes down to, if you're not comfortable using your minions to block, then just use Italy Rock to block. You're probably fine. I did it the first time I did fight caves way back in the day. Just remember to always be using your diamond bolts and your 360s to kind of kill them faster to minimize your prayer loss, and you should be good to make it to Jad. Alright, wave 58. This is where I want to kind of chime back in. Wave 58 through wave 62 are probably like the hardest waves in the entire fight caves. Jad's really not that bad once you know how to do them. These waves are really difficult from the sheer amount of shit that spawns. This is when you have basically every single monster in the fight cave spawn. And you're going to see that I'm incorporating a lot of the different luring techniques I talked about. I'm using Italy Rock right now. I'm keeping them trapped on the south side. I ran far to the north side, close to the actual entrance to bring the Ranger in. The reason I did that is because both the 360 and the 180 were trapped on the south side of Italy Rock. So I ran far into that northern corner to bring the 90 in so I could actually just pray range against him and not have to take the damage. And then you see right now in this wave, I had the 180 and the 90 and a 45 all come at me at the same time. What you want to do in this case, I was thankfully able to get the 180 stuck on the 45. But if you were not able to do that for whatever reason, you can't get that to work, then what you want to do is obviously pray melee and kill the Ranger as fast as you can. You want to kill that Ranger. The Ranger will destroy you, but the melee will destroy you faster. So pray melee and kill the Ranger. You're seeing that I'm using basically every single kind of trapping technique I can do. Wave 60 was actually the most difficult wave for me. You see pretty much everything's attacking me. I had both Rangers attacking me. Meleeer was able to get safe spotted. I had both Rangers and the Meleeer, the Major on me. So I was taking a lot of damage that wave. But at the end of the day, you have a ton of brews. You should be fine to just tank it out. Wave 61, you've got 2 Meleeers and the Mage. So get the Meleeers stuck on the rock. You can actually run and get them lined up and then get them both stuck on the same safe spot. That works too. Wave 62 is a very important wave. I'm actually going to talk about it here in a minute. So wave 62, this is where you're going to have both Majors spawn. Really, really important tip. Wherever the off-colored 360 spawns is where Jad will spawn. That is very important to know. So you see, I didn't see where the 360 spawned initially, so I ran around trying to find where he spawned before he started walking towards me, so I had a good idea as to what Jad spawn I was going to have. So I found him, and I was like, okay, I'm going to kill that one last. That is my tip to you, is always kill the off-color 360 last, so that way you're right next to Jad when he spawns, because I don't use sounds, I don't like sounds, I've done sounds before, and it doesn't work for me. I find animations to be much easier, and there's less fault in that. Again, it's what I've done. If you want to do sounds, you can obviously do sounds, but this guy will not be covering sounds. I would rather teach you guys how to do animations instead, because I find them simpler to learn. Alright, so you see that 360 is starting to get close to being dead, so I'm going to step away. I'm going to Sarah Brew up past my HP level. I'm going to take a Super Restore, and I'm going to range pot and get ready to fight Jad. So as soon as that 360 dies, a message is going to pop up, and Jad should be right where that level 3, that off-color 360 was. So the thing that you're going to do now is immediately start looking at his animation. The 2 animations he's going to have is there's going to be one where he pounds the ground, which is that one right there, and that's going to be his range attack. And then he's also going to have another one, which is this one, where his hands kind of come up in the air and he goes on his hind legs, and that's going to be the Mage Prayer. Now basically all you need to do, put on your diamond bolts, watch the prayers, and put on your best prayer that you have for range, which should be Eagle Eye at level 52 prayer. And pretty much all you're going to do is just sit here, watch his feet, and flick your prayers back and forth. If you need to take a sip of prayer potion, super restore, whatever, do the prayer flick, switch over to your inventory, take a sip, and then switch back. Basically, you want to do one thing per prayer flick. And it's going to be the same thing with the healers. You're going to see me do it right now. I'm going to do a prayer flick. I'm going to get a healer off. I'm going to watch him, do a prayer flick, get a healer off. I'll do the same thing, do a prayer flick, get a healer off. And you're going to do that until you have all the healers off. Now, if you have the ability to just tank them with rock skin on or steel skin on, great, then go ahead and do that. But if not, then all you're going to do is continue prayer flicking Jad and then kill the healers off one by one so that you don't have to actually incur the damage from them. Now, the healers will not spawn again unless Jad manages to get healed to full health. So the healers don't have to die for you to kill Jad, but they do consistent damage if you're a lower defense level. So if that does prove to be an issue, then just continue prayer flicking Jad and then kill the healers off while you're prayer flicking Jad still. And then once they're dead, take your focus back to Jad. Again, Jad's a very simple fight if you maintain that 1 action to 1 prayer flick ratio. If you continue to do that, this fight's very simple. The issue is people get stressed and they try to do too many things in one time and they forget the prayer flick. If you just do 1 action per prayer flick, then you can simply kill Jad like that. Done. Fire cape achieved. That's all you need to do. Now, this took about 80 minutes. If you have the stats that I talked about in the beginning, it's probably going to take you close to 100 to 120 minutes. Also, if it's your first time, expect for it to take a little bit longer. But as you can see, fire cape achieved, really not that difficult. I ended up with plenty of supplies, so you can see if you have lower levels, you probably still have a ton of supplies left over. Again, that's how you get your fire cape. It's really not that bad, guys. It takes some practice. The biggest thing I'm going to tell you guys is just to not stress about it. Stressing is what's going to actually kill you. You'll see that I actually fucked up a couple prayer flicks on Jad, but as long as you flick it back quick enough, you're not going to have an issue of getting hit. That's the really nice thing about doing Jad. So just relax, calm yourself. Jad's probably one of the easier waves. Just maintain one flick to one action ratio. Alright guys, I think that's going to do it for this video. So if you guys did enjoy it, remember to give it a like. If you want to see more of this content, go ahead and subscribe and let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. If you want to see me do another video about like Jad tips based on certain weapons you're using, so like Jad tips if you're using a blowpipe, or Jad tips if you're using a carol bow, that kind of stuff, I'd be more than happy to make like a quick video about that, just kind of explaining what to do. But to be honest, Jad's not that difficult of a fight. To be honest, 57 through 61 are probably harder waves. But just stay relaxed, stay calm, you'll be fine. Hopefully you guys can use this guide to get your own fire cape. And I hope I've done my job. You guys have a good night.